And I could probably sit for this one.
Yes, please.
All right, I'll make myself pretty. Okay, so everybody has been working on their painted papers and getting their gloss medium over them. And we're going to just take a break, and I'm going to show you a little bit about paper weaving and what we can do with that. So I think one of the simplest ways to do it that you probably did in school is by just taking a piece of paper and folding it in half and randomly cutting, but not cutting all the way to the end, right? So now we have our warp, which is this that goes up and down, but it's closed off at both ends. And now we can just really simply weave in and out. Oh, I actually glued this one, so it's going to be hard to take this one apart, but over and under, right? So that's one way of working. If you just want to fold your paper and just cut into it, cut straight lines, cut thick and thin, cut wavy lines, cut any shape of line you want, it'll be real easy to hold on to and slide things into. This is another one that's just done that way. So you can see on the back how simple it is, right? But I wove into it patterned papers, and you know, I am a more is more kind of girl, so then I started weaving on top and adding more strips back and forth to add more things. And I even cheated here because I glued some things on because I wanted something to come through. So those are a couple, like that's the simplest way. It's so simple.
What's the paper? What's your
These are
substrate?
just, this is cardstock.
Cardstock. Okay.
This is construction paper and just a really color copy of a piece of my artwork.
Yeah.
I found that you want to make it interesting, punching holes.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, because now the colors come through.
Or how would you get that?
That's really cool too.
Yeah, so I mean, I wove it with this with holes punched, and then I went back through and slid
Yeah.
where the black was, all these black strips. I went and slid a color behind them, so it pops through. So it's a really, really, really simple weave, but it really is kind of fun just with that hole punch. I did bring hole punches if you do want to do that. Normally, if I was just teaching paper weaving, I would probably start you out with just strips that are all cut even, and you can really play with colors and working that way. But we're moving to advanced today, but I wanted to bring some of those examples, which are really fun to play with.
Pot holders.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
right.
what I thought of
They
too.
are. They're
Or the
just like
Girl
what we
Scout
did as the
seat.
pot holders.
Campfire.
Yeah, yeah. But then, you know, when you weave, depending upon how you weave your color patterns, you could get different patterns coming up. So you
That's
can
really
see
pretty.
in the back, it was just that I didn't weave the same thing constantly, and I didn't, you know, if you alternate, it's gonna be able to pick up and get you lines. If you really, okay, so this is where you can tell I went to school for weaving,
Yes.
and I loved doing those
Jeez.
graph paper patterns.
Holy cow.
So this, it's really interesting on the back side too, though, because it's just that plain, that weave. But I actually did kind of graph that out and put those in there. These are when you're starting to weave with your painted papers. Now this is all, these were all done before I realized I could fuse them. So these are kind of loosey-goosey, you know. But look, I was
That's so
weaving this,
beautiful.
right? But look what happened when I turned it over.
That's even
Yeah.
cooler, yeah.
Once
I
you're
said-
done, you gotta decide which side you like.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, whoa, that is gorgeous, but that wasn't what I was looking at. I was looking at
Yeah.
this. So this was not painted papers. Then I started painting my papers. And there's really nothing to getting all these wonky, wavy, wonderful lines other than cutting your paper in those shapes. I'll show you one that's not painted that is easier. But this is, now I have this dilemma. Which side?
Could you frame them with
You could.
glass classic
Or put 'em in
on
the
either
window.
side?
Exactly.
And then the
Exa-
person's got two paintings.
Exactly, 2 for 1,
Two for
right? I have to
one, yeah.
charge twice as much.
Yeah.
So that's just the simple weaves, and we'll start you on that, and then once we do that, these are weaves that are woven into a second time, that I've cut into and woven into a second time. So let's leave them for a minute, and let's just look at a really simple weave here, because I think when it's in the, when you see it in solid paper, it's easier to see, right? So I generally cut from the bottom up, and I generally just leave one end open. When you want to make these wonky, there's nothing to doing these wonky, it's still over and under. But do yourself a favor, don't cut the second one all the way, cut it as you go along, because you want to match the same, if I'm lucky here, see this isn't even the same, I've lost a piece and carrying it around. But you want to actually be able to match the same curve to the curve and follow your paper down. I usually leave an empty space at the top, and then I can go back and cut slits into this and put that empty piece, fill it in so it's full, but you don't have to. But you know, this is just, there's absolutely no, so sometimes I will cut them out and line them all up, but so we were asking what kind of papers, and we're working with, a lot of us are just working with painted magazine pages, which are wonderful and thin for collage, etc. But sometimes if you want to start just playing with paper weave, you see how easy this cardstock is to manipulate. It's a little firmer. So you might actually like that when you're starting out. I have a friend, and he said, can I do this? And he took every one of his little bottom things and he folded it up so he had tabs to grab it from.
Easier to pick up.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, why not? Why not? So if that works for you, some people might slide something through here to make like a pick stick if you were actually doing weaving with yarn, and make like a shed to. It's to me, I'm not so worried about going fast. I'm just I'm enjoying it and how the patterns come together as I'm weaving it. So I don't really mind just manipulating it over and under. So, so let's do real quick. So I just grabbed a couple of papers that we can weave together. Maybe I should pick something else that has something on the back, but we'll just do it with the white. And I guess I'll cut these. Well, I don't have to weave the whole thing for the demo. I can weave part of it. And then what you guys can do is maybe weave a 2-layer one, and we can fuse it. And once it's fused, can you see this line that's running, these kind of stripy lines? That's what I call the third layer. So this was woven once, and then I cut it up and wove another piece in. I made strips out of the woven piece and then wove again. And that's what all of these are, and I just love this. More is more. And you get these really interesting backs. But you don't have to do that for your collage. And you can also do, somewhere I had one that this is another one that, I don't really love this weave pattern too much, but I think it really has potential to be worked on and background for a collage or inner collage. But then I turned it over and said, oh, but I really, you know, I love that side. And that was just how the magazine pages lined up. So you know what? How about I cut this one? So I think you guys all kind of have it figured out how you would make your first layer of weaving, not too hard. You're going to weave it, and then we're going to come and fuse it. So if I was to cut into this again, and I don't know which side I want to be looking at, but I could, and I'm cutting this in pretty big, bold pieces because I want to do something quickly. Yeah, now I'm gonna, let's just, because this is here, oh, I already cut that one up. Okay, let's cut this. No, let's cut something that's not white on the back side. So off camera here, I have piles of yummy things I could weave into here. All right, let's just weave gray into here. But it's gonna have something on the other side too, and I can choose which side I want it to go. So, and if I just cut them as kind of straight strips, I don't have to really worry too much about lining up my wonky lines. Sometimes you can't see because you're on this where it is because there's so many things going on at once here.
Sorry.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on the other side. And I chose to put the painted on this side and the text on the other side. When you go to do the second weave, sometimes it's a little pickier because you've had these two layers, and when you cut, sometimes you get little jagged edges where the different ones are there. So it just, you know, I mean, I stumbled upon this stuff because I did a Creative February challenge, and person who sets that challenge out does these incredibly beautiful paintings, and I wasn't going to be able to compete with that. But I thought, you know, I think let's just see what I could do with paper weaving. And I have a lot of examples in there from the whole month of February where I did one every day, but it wasn't until well after that I realized that I could fuse them and take it to another level. So what I did on the first ones was just, I would just tack the end with a little bit of glue. I don't know how exciting it is to see this being woven here. I'm really curious what the other side looks like.
But you're not gonna peek, it's a
No.
surprise.
I'm not gonna peek, cause why? It's you know, it's
More fun if you wait till the end.
exactly. But I had liked this side, but I think I like this side even better now, right? It's even more interesting, because I still have those wonderful greens popping up. So let's just get one more piece in here, and then I'll,
Could be like the black and white, you know, you really like that one side, then you flipped it.
exactly. And that other side had an awful lot going on, and it wasn't, I gravitate to these blues and greens more. So, okay. So this is a little, you know, it's a little, see, when I go to pick it up, it's gonna fall apart, etc. Which is why it's actually great to have your, I can just, this slides under so easily, so that I don't have to pick up